Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 671 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Lona Cook. And if you want to hear her story of coaching and how to help more chiropractors, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I have a repeat interview here. This is Dr. Lona Cook. Had the privilege of having her on a little while back. Really love what she's doing. We're going to talk about being together this past week at Mile High at the seminar. Thank you for putting that on, Dr. Danny and Rochelle Knowles. You do something really special for chiropractic. And then we're going to talk remarkable practice. She's a coach in there. She was a client first, and now she's a little bit into her coaching process with them. So we'll talk about that. And then I know this lady wants to hit some more stages. So we're going to talk about speaking at events. And the real message behind this is helping more chiropractors and understanding business structures for success. And we'll jump into all those topics. And I'm really excited to have her on for 671 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. But before we go into her story a little bit and these topics, I just want to let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Hustle? Well, before the show started, Dr. Lona said, "You must really love what you do." And I said, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And I never realized that we'd be where we are today with what we're doing. But as I got more deep into this profession, I realized some of the things that really mattered. And one of those things was freedom of speech and medical freedom and family health freedom. And we have to share this message. If I've heard anybody in this profession tell me more and more and more to tell the story, that's why we started this show, because I was like, we have to just tell the story for chiropractic, because if we don't tell it through our scope, someone else, they're not going to do as good a job as what we're going to do. So anyways, we love what we do, and we've never censored anybody. We know what it's like to be traffic throttled and shadow banned and censored. So we'd never do that to you. And if you guys need somebody to help you with your health and guidance, go find a chiropractor in your neighborhood, in your city, your state, and start understanding these topics. Philosophically speaking, we do protect B.J. Palmer's last written words, the sacred trust. If you do not know what that means, go to the show notes at chirohustle.com and click on the link and learn about the sacred trust. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you ever did previously, I guarantee you. And if you love what we're doing, please share the show. Share this with more people so they understand what chiropractic is and how we're making an impact globally. More philosophical speaking, we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. I know I shouldn't have to say that, but they're taking this out of the schools. So please share this message in this show with the student so people can understand the depth and the significance of the chiropractic profession and the philosophy that chiropractic stands for. We believe that when man or woman physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman the spiritual, and that creates innate intelligence and universal intelligence. And then when that is adapted, it creates educated intelligence. And with that, this is episode 671 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Dr. Lona Cook, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but I believe that dropping that bomb on the beginning of this interview every time builds consistency for the brand, and people know what to expect when they jump on and get a dose of the Chiro Hustle podcast.
So good. And from my point of view, like man spiritual to man physical, like if again, we get that as the profession, that this is more than just what's happening at the level of your tissue. It's more than just what's happening in your, I call it the meat suit, but like to me, that is Didi was so ahead of his time. We're still trying to grasp what he was gifting us with. And I think was just a genius, really. So I love that you started the profession there.
Well, back to Didi, I just interviewed Jim Parker Jr. before you. And his father started Parker College and Parker Seminars, which I think is, a derivative of, the passing of the torch of what did Didi do? Well, how did he assimilate the profession? How did he pass it on to BJ? How did BJ start Palmer College? How did they assimilate all this knowledge and pass it on to their disciples? And how did their people learn and say, this is the right way to do things? We're going to pass this around the globe now. So I think that there's a lot that comes from the fundamentals of the profession. If we don't pay tribute and alliance with that, then what are we doing?
No, I'm with you. And I there was something shared this weekend at Mile High where it was, I'm gonna botch this, but it was like, that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, right? And like, we can look at our profession and see, our foundation, how it created a strength in chiropractic, but then that brought on some good times. And now we're back into a weakened profession that I think has to rise again to like the demand that 2020 has put on the chiropractic profession, where there's a lot of people who want what we have. We need to rise to the occasion to speak it and to hold it and to grow our practices to fulfill the needs that, humanity has needing principled chiropractic.
Well, one step further beyond that is one of my mentors, he's not a doctor, but Roberto Monaco. He'll always tell me, like, if we don't tell our truth, then someone else will make up one about us. And that's a big reason why this show is successful the way that it is, because there has to be some truth. There has to be some linear path that we're going, that we can share a message that's congruent with the fundamentals of the profession, not what they're teaching in schools today. And we have to really rise above it, like you said, and stay true to our roots to where somebody doesn't sell us out. And I think that that's been a huge congruency issue for the profession. So I'm happy that you're in alignment with what we're doing. And, you show up and you make an impact because of the method of idea that you carry with you. And I know a lot of this comes from you being a part of the remarkable practice. And I know that you were a client with them for some years and now you've transitioned to coaching. So maybe you can just share a little bit about your experience as a client and why you decided that the coaching world is going to be right for you.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks for the question there. So, growing my practice over the last 14, almost 15 years, I had scaled probably before I should have, because we opened up a second practice when I was about 3 years in. And I quickly realized that having two practices was a different animal than having one practice. And so out of necessity, I realized I needed to get two more DCs into the role, one in my main office and then one in my second office. So I ended up hiring an associate and attracting a partner, and then we grew from there. And so by the time I think it was in 2019, I heard Dr. Franson and Dr. Pete Camiolo speaking on their podcast about scaling. And I realized, man, I need some help. Like, I felt like we were scaling, but there was still a lot of things that were still heavy on my shoulders, as well as just felt like I hadn't leveraged leadership well in certain capacities. And so when I was listening to their podcast, I was like, I need to check this out. So I ended up signing up and being coached by Dr. Pete Still M, myself and my team for the last 5 years or so. And it really helped me take this desire to serve chiropractic to more and more people, and how I was walking out by having more DCs on my team was a great thing, and it was something that I needed coaching around. I hadn't found it up until that point, so I was really just learning by trial and error, and trying to look at what I could learn from what we had just went through as a season. But I still felt like I was not doing it well. Let's put it that way. And so in hindsight, the coaching that I received from Dr. Pete and the remarkable practice, as far as communication rhythms, systems, all sorts of things that if you read the book Traction, it alludes to, of learning how to leverage people and get detailed. It was already like prepared for me, so I could take what Dr. Francis and Dr. Pete had done and start to really put it into play, which allowed us then to grow our school-based practice, which I think last time I was maybe on the podcast, I think we talked about, which is we're bringing chiropractic into the public schools.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my practices is leveraging not only other chiropractors, but also like other locations, like coming and bringing chiropractic to the people, which I do believe like people are so ready for this. If we take down the barriers of time and effort to get to a chiropractic appointment, it makes it that much more just like a no-brainer, right? So anyways, if I had not, I look back on like the last 4 or 5 years, and if I hadn't gotten some of this strategic, like just how do you position yourself? How do you start to scale? I do not believe we'd be at where we're at in like the school-based practice, as well as my main brick and four wall. So I love it because they're not telling us we need to be carbon copies of each other. It's like, no, we all have like a beautiful vision probably. And part of what keeps us from actually actualizing that is that we think it all has to be done by us, instead of really ascending into a position where we can be the visionary and start to attract other leaders into our team so that they can help us carry this out and we can serve more people. So that's why TRP is awesome. I think it helps us get really strategic about how we do that.
Yeah, my first time ever learning about what Dr. Stephen Franzen was doing, I was going down to show our first movie down in Mexico. And I painstakingly worked with people and we got it subtitled into Spanish. And like, I tell you what, like I went down there and the Mexican chiropractors like treated me like I was a Beatle. Like it was like I was famous. And I went and showed it was just back in 2016. And we went down there and showed it to the 3 major chiropractic colleges in Mexico. But I had a chance to meet one of the chiropractors down there that was a remarkable practice chiropractor, Victor Sandueo. And I went to his office down in Veracruz. And just the way that I saw him set up, the way that his business was flowing differently from all the other chiropractors down there. I didn't check out a lot of offices, but I checked out 4 to 5, and his was just different. Mm-hmm. And I asked him who was coaching him and how he got his flow the way that he did and why he did things the way he did. And he's like, oh, I've been coaching with Dr. Stephen Franzen. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that even, almost 10 years ago, when I was like, I didn't know anything about like coaching or practice management or none of it. I was just trying to make a movie to educate people. But as I've gone through now, I've been to like hundreds of chiropractic offices, and I have seen how what Dr. Stephen has done for the offices that I've been in and connected with, how they're just doing things a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And, I was joking with you, early on, but like, I feel like the chiropractic industry, our profession, has like one coach for every one chiropractor. And yes. It's kind of funny to say, but it's out there. There's a lot of coaches. So now you're into this with the remarkable practice, 1.5 years, something like that. Why would people work with you as a coach as opposed to maybe someone else?
Yeah. So I think the collective of TRP and the coaches is unique. We are a team. There's like 15 of us or so. And so finding the right fit within our ecosystem is really important. And you'll hear, we all are always preaching that like, it has to be your version of success. So whether that is, you want the like massive practice, high volume, great. There's a coach that's going to help you grow that and lead that. Depending on what stage you're in, there's a right coach for you. If you're someone who's like, nope, I have a different version. I want to have multi locations and I want it to be this way. Great. There's a coach for you. And the system is built in a way where a lot of it is like, you can be your technique, you can be your version of success. And by implementing these strategies and these layers of communication with your team, with your CAs and with the DCs that you hire, you're going to do it better. So I think it's unmatched in chiropractic. At least I haven't seen it where we're really focused around building out the team around maybe the visionary chiropractor in a way that everybody also is like an ecosystem that relies on each other, right? Where it's like, yes, the CEO is important, but so is every other seat on the bus, and we're going to leverage them. And so I think that's a really beautiful part of TRP.
But there obviously had to be a huge component to the network for you to say, this is what I want to do too. And I want to join with this group and I don't want to just go and do it myself. So
Yes.
maybe share about that a little bit.
Sure. Okay. So I used to run masterminds myself, and I would usually have somewhere between 15 and 25, mostly women, a few brave men that would come and join us for the year of masterminding. And I loved doing that, but it was also putting on like a whole mini wedding every time that we hosted a mastermind. Right. And so I realized like I love helping chiropractors, but I don't know that I want to create the container myself. So then I asked myself, okay, what have I found the most value in, and what has helped my team and our ecosystem to scale? And it was a no-brainer that I could come in and coach for TRP and scratch the itch of loving to help chiropractors, as well as I realized for our school-based practice to keep growing, if I wanted other chiropractors to do something similar to what we've done, where they brought chiropractic into their public schools or any other place in their community, I know all the back end work that had to get in place in order to get the ecosystem right, that we could even begin to like bring care outside our four walls. And that happened because of the work we did with TRP. So my heart was really like, I want more people to do what we've done, but I don't want to have to create that all myself to teach them. I want to come together with TRP and use what helped me to help other chiropractors be able to bring chiropractic to more people.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Kytronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. Yeah, I think that's a really great segment for people to learn that if you want to do something, obviously you can, but if you find a congruent method and mission and team that you can be a part of, that makes a lot of sense too. It takes a lot of pressure off of the strategy and the planning. And like you said, you can bring 25 people in for a year and give them a great experience, but what does it look like if you don't have to manage all the planning, all of the details, making sure that, there's a lot that comes into making, 5 people, process through a weekend the right way. Mm-hmm. And if you start thinking about that at scale, there is something to lean into and say, wow, I don't have to do all that. I can just be a part of this great thing. And it's more fun that way too.
Yeah. I'm learning so much in the process of learning with the other coaches too. So it's like, it felt like the next evolution for my path. And I love getting to work with the group of docs that I am coaching directly. But it is something where the whole organization is up leveling each other. So it's great. I am very grateful for TRP for what they've done for us, both in our brick and mortar and our school-based practice, as well as like the space they hold for chiropractors to grow the ecosystem. Because I do think, man, if you think about, if the average chiropractor sees 100 people a week-ish, right? And we could grow that capacity through better systems and hiring the right amount of CAs, and leveraging other people's genius, man, we can reach a lot more people without necessarily even needing more chiropractors, although we know we do need more chiropractors clearly. But just having proper implementation and proper teams around us, we could reach more people.
Well, I know that's a major part of your ethos is helping chiropractors and business structure. Now say that somebody hears this interview and they're like, you know what, I want to be somebody that coaches, not maybe with just Dr. Lona, but I want to be a part of this ecosystem that you're talking about with a remarkable practice. How do you help, I guess, amplify somebody that maybe he's coached with other people before, like you, or maybe have had other experiences? What do you do to framework them out to say, this is how we're going to get everything going in the right direction for you, so we can then tell you if you need more CAs, or if you want to actually bring in another DC, let them run the practice for you, and then you go and open up number 2 like you did?
Yep. That's a great question. So it isn't so different than, when a new practice member comes into the office, what do? We do a consultation, right? We learn about what's their story, what brought them in today, what do they perceive their issues to be, and then we take them through an examination, right? So it's not that different. It's like, I want to learn about you. Generally, you'll get on the phone with or on Zoom with one of the coaches. So you could do it with myself or any one of us, and we want to learn about you. We want to know, like, where are you at? What's the vision? What do you perceive as what's holding you back? What do you want to see happen? And just even listening, just like you listen to a patient, you can hear some things they say or they don't say that clue you into probably some of the hurdles that might be in things that we need to address sooner than later, right? We're also listening to find out, based on what your vision is, we call it like what season of practice you're in. So, a new doc would be that maybe hasn't even launched their practice yet. They'd be in a launch season. They got to open their 4 walls of their practice. Somebody who is in build is already seeing people. They have their 4 walls. They maybe have a team already in place, whether they're leveraged or not. They're like doing chiropractic, but they're all done by them, right? Like they're the only DC that's adjusting in the practice. They'd be in our build season, versus somebody who's in scale, has another set of hands, another chiropractor on their team. And again, they may be not scaling well yet. And that may be part of what we really want to discover with them, is where the hurdles are there to doing that and leveraging it, so that having multiple DCs is a good thing. Because sometimes people try to scale and it leads to a lot of scar tissue. And so we want to try to help them do that better. And then obviously part of the ethos is also that we want to build to scale to exit. Doesn't mean that we want you to exit the profession. It just means that if you build your practice so that that at some point you're either going to sell it or someone else will take over, then it's just like a much better run practice likely, as well as it's going to be something where when you do exit, you're going to be very grateful you set it up, that it had systems and process and repeatable rhythms and all of that good stuff. So that's part of what we want to understand is, where are you at? What do you need? What do you perceive you need? And then we will show you, like, based on what season you're in, what we have for the coaching and also the online portion, where our academies, where you can access that, as well as set up your timing with your coaches.
Well, I think there's so much there that gives a structure for any chiropractor, whether you're coming out of college next week, whether you've been practicing for 5 years and you kind of feel stuck, whether you've worked with other people and they didn't get you to the level of what your vision was. And I think it is important to ask people questions, and to be able to get them to share with you what's going on, how they would like to see things going. And then you can pick out the right match for them from coaching, and you can pick out the right match for them from where the stage they are in their career, which I think is super unique, because most people don't know how to do that structure. Mm-hmm. So you come into it and it sounds like there's no ego involved when it comes to who gets selected for what coach inside of the Remarkable practice. And then it sounds like, obviously, every chiropractor wants to have a business, not just a practice. Mm-hmm. So if you can help them build out the structure for something that they can, like you said, exit out of, that's a huge benefit, and keeps the reality like centered on the quarter, the week, the month, the year, and then you can see where you need to be. I think it's a lot like people that live in a house, okay, and they want to sell it, and they make the house nicer than they did when they lived in it. And then they make everything nice, and then they sell the thing, and then they're not there anymore. And I think that that's kind of like the season a lot of chiropractors are in, but they don't know how to actually build the off ramp and the on ramp and exit out. So I think that there's a lot that goes into that back end support when somebody's like, gosh, I wish somebody could help me do this. Mm-hmm. How do I plan this part of my practice? And I think that would be a huge benefit for anybody that's been out 10 plus years. As to say, hey, what do I need to do if I ever decide that, I want to open up a satellite office? Because I think every chiropractor under the sun, that's been a dream of theirs. Yes. I want office 2 and 3 and 5 and 10 and 18. Well, how do you get there? And how do you leave and make that work and have the ability to sell at one point and know what your valuation for the thing that you've worked for 10 years or 30 years for is actually worth?
Amen. Yeah, no, you're spot on. And you guys, it's hard work, right? Like practice is hard work, but having some direction and structure, especially when it's something like most of us came into chiropractic because we love serving people and we want to help them from like this holistic mindset and whatnot. And we had to become business people. And, some of us resist that too. And so I think it was Dr. Pete that said like, some of you are so in your heart, you need to learn to go back to your head sometimes. And some of you are so in your head, you need to like move into your heart, right? Like it's supposed to go both ways, right? And so a lot of what TRP has offered, I think, especially practices that are centered around the principle, but want to be able to like scale better, as well as what you just said too. Think about like when there's a point where you're going to exit and there's new docs who are going to be graduating that could buy your practice. It just creates like a better like foundation for that to actually happen well, which is good for everybody. It's good for the patients. It's good for certainly the business owner, but it's good for the new grad who maybe would be onboarding into something that they could take and run with. Like it's just good. So to me, this is like something that is so important to our profession, growing to a bigger size, is having solid foundations in how our businesses are set up.
Yeah, that's the huge takeaway for everybody watching today, I think, is understand not just what it means to grow a practice, but what it means to run a business and to have yourself a business at the outset of your service. And I think that that's a huge, huge important thing that not many people are capable of talking about. They're not, I found just because of my time in the profession for 16 years, a lot of chiropractors, just throwing this out there, they have challenges with self-esteem and truth and integrity. And there's a lot of guilt and shame around where they are with their practice life. And one of my teammates asked me why there weren't more chiropractors at our weekend seminar we were just at. And I had to tell them, like, look, a lot of people don't want to show up because they don't have like the warm and fuzzies about their life. They don't feel so great about where they are in their practice. They might not be hitting the potential that they want to. So it's easier for them to stay away. It's easier for them to not come out there to see their community. So that's a big thing too, is if we get people on a track now, knowing that they have a lot of self-esteem, they actually have a lot of purpose and a lot of desire and all these other, really positive things with life and practice. Now we have a stronger profession where they're going to bring their teams, and then they're going to bring people to these events, and people are going to learn from these great speakers. And then they're going to be able to amplify it even further because now we have a stronger profession. And I think that if I've learned anything about chiropractic in 16 years is that if we can just get people to see more people, then the profession as a whole becomes stronger. And then we have a stronger core, and people then want to go to school to become chiropractors and to come out and practice with amazing docs with amazing practice strategies. That's the thing that I found for most students. Most students come out of school and they don't know, like, really other than a technique, and they haven't even touched a green book, and they barely know how to, pass boards. And then you're like, hey, go out there and start a business. Right. And I think that every chiropractor, as soon as they come out, they just have to find somebody that's going to help them rather than just look at them as another client. So I want that from the perspective of growth, but I want that from the perspective of, actually making the profession better and not just creating systems to pass people through where people don't necessarily get successful. So I think that would be something that I would, encourage everybody to check out what Stephen and Lona are doing with their team, and just see if, they can help you build out a better future to where you're not 50% of chiropractors that fail after 3 to 5 years. And I think that those numbers are real. And if we don't talk about that, then once again, what are we doing here? So I encourage everybody to learn business principles, business structures, and learn how to have fun.
Yes.
And have fun with practice and do the things that you dreamed of doing. Create the life that you've always wanted to by becoming a doctor of chiropractic. So I think that those things are just really honest, and they flow out of me because that's the world that I really believe that chiropractic needs to start navigating towards, rather than oh, I found another chiropractor that didn't make it, and I'm trying to rehab them into becoming a successful chiropractor.
Well, Jim, I think you brought something up that's really important. I love that you spoke to this, is that there is, I think, a lot of people who struggle, right, in practice, or maybe they're not struggling, but they're not loving it, right? And some of that comes down to just the demand that's on the average chiropractor if they're running a practice and having to wear all these hats and maybe not sure how to get themselves out of some of the jobs they really don't like doing, that keeps their energy kind of suppressed, if that is the case for them. But I think it's important to just talk about it too. It's like there are going to be parts of practice that are challenging and hard, and this is also why the more disconnected we become as a profession, where you don't go to things, or you don't have a tribe that you can call on and say, here's the real deal. Like, I just had a really hard quarter, or last year sucked, right? And what am I doing wrong, right? We have to be able to have these conversations openly, because I guarantee, if you spoke openly about your problems in a safe room of like people you actually trust in chiropractic, like there would be solutions found for you, and people who have already walked that path. And that, to me, has been one of the greatest blessings I've had, is that I've stayed well connected in chiropractic through the last 14, 15 years, had different mentors at different points. But because I attend things, I always feel like there's always a nudge of the next person I need to learn from, or where I could grow. And that has allowed me to not stay in the crap, if you will, or the challenge too long without making change.
Plus, show up and hug your brothers and sisters. I know chiropractors all love to hug each other. So get to go somewhere and hang out with like-minded people, and leave your guilt and shame and fear at home, and just, go come out and get adjusted and talk to people and take some notes. And I know that we're almost out of time here, but I did want you to allow people to work with you if they're curious to connect with you. Where can we send people to, and how can you connect with people, or how can they connect with you better if they're curious about the remarkable practice and your coaching specifically?
Yes. Well, Jim, I'll send you my link if they want to do a 30-minute strategy call. I'm happy to connect, and we can talk directly about where they're at in their practice and where they want to go. You also can go to the Remarkable Practice website, and there'd be a link on there for strategy calls, and that will put you with one of the available coaches too. So those are good places. Also, you're happy to DM me on Instagram or whatever. I love this profession. It's changed my life for the better on every way possible. So, I think it is our job. Doesn't mean that we can't take a break every once in a while and come up for air, but our job to like steward it well, and keep more people accessing what has changed all of our lives.
Well, Dr. Lona, thank you for being open and helpful to this profession. It's really an honor to do what we do over here. And I'm thankful to have great guests like you to be able to come on and share your love for this amazing profession also. At that point, thank you for the resources. Go to the remarkablepractice.com, book a 30-minute strategy session with any of the coaches out there. And if you want to request Lona, you can connect with her through DMs and Instagram or Facebook. And let's see where we can take this profession together. Your episode number 671 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Thanks for being our guest today.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate you.
Yeah, so I'll close out by telling you guys, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. Check out the Remarkable Practice and Dr. Lona Cook. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.